For 80 years, the American soldier has been the unbreakable wall between Western Europe and Russian expansion. But tonight, that wall is being dismantled by a single signature in the Oval Office. On May 2, 2026, the Pentagon confirmed a decision that has sent shockwaves through the halls of NATO: the withdrawal of 5,000 U.S. troops from Germany, the very bedrock of continental defense. This is not a routine rotation or a technical adjustment, it is a seismic shift. President Trump has already doubled down, promising that these initial cuts will go way down and a lot further than that initial 5,000. The move is a direct retaliatory strike against German Chancellor Friedrich Merz after a public spat regarding the U.S. strategy in Iran. While Berlin attempts to maintain composure, calling the move foreseeable, military leaders are sounding the alarm on what they describe as a disastrous trend. We are about to reveal the specific high-end weapon system that was just canceled, a capability Germany simply cannot replace, and why this pivot may have handed Vladimir Putin the greatest strategic gift of the decade. Has the transatlantic alliance finally collapsed? The timeline of this crisis moved with devastating speed. On Friday, May 1, 2026, the Pentagon officially issued the order to pull a full U.S. brigade out of German territory. This involves approximately 5,000 service members, a force that served as the immediate tripwire for European security. To understand the scale, you have to look at the numbers. Germany currently hosts the largest American contingent on the continent, with over 36,000 active duty personnel and a total footprint of roughly 50,000 service members, including National Guard and civilians. This single cut eliminates 14% of the total active duty force in one stroke. Chief Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell confirmed that this drawdown is not a distant plan. It will be permanent and completed within a tight window of 6 to 12 months. This wasn't the result of a peace treaty or a reduction in global threats. Instead, it followed a public spat where Chancellor Merz claimed the U.S. was being humiliated by Iran. Washington's response was swift and multi-pronged, combining the troop withdrawal with a threat of 25% tariffs on European auto imports. This move now sits in direct defiance of the 2026 defense bill, a law passed by Congress to restrict slashing troop levels below 76,000 without explicit approval. The legal battle is brewing, but on the ground, the packing has already begun. The targets of this withdrawal are not just numbers on a ledger, they are the critical nodes of Western defense. The most significant loss is the Long Range Fires Battalion. This is a targeted strike on NATO's ability to strike back. A Biden-era plan to deploy Tomahawk missiles to German soil has been summarily scrapped. You must understand, the U.S. holds a factual monopoly on long-range fires within the alliance. This is not just a missile battery, this is the primary conventional deterrent capable of reaching deep into Russian territory from the heart of Europe. Without it, the big stick of NATO is effectively broken. Next is the loss of a full combat brigade. Moving 5,000 ready-to-fight soldiers removes a forward presence that has existed since the end of the Second World War. This presence is anchored by legendary hubs like Ramstein Air Base, the global logistics heart of the American military, and Landstuhl Medical Center, the only major trauma center for troops wounded in the Middle East. Stuttgart, the HQ for both European and Africa commands, now faces an uncertain future. These facilities are not merely for Germany's defense. They are the essential launchpad for U.S. power projection across Africa, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific. If the logistics tail is cut, the teeth of the American military are neutralized. This is the dismantling of a global architecture, leaving the rear of the alliance completely exposed to external pressure. The question haunting Berlin tonight is simple: can these losses be replaced? The hard evidence suggests the answer is a resounding never, at least not in time to matter. Look at the long-range gap. Expert Christian Molling from Medina is blunt. Europe is years away from developing its own indigenous Tomahawk equivalent. You cannot build a high-end missile industry overnight, especially when your industrial base is already under strain. Then there is the manpower crisis. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has announced plans to boost the Bundeswehr, from 185,000 to 260,000 soldiers. However, critics are calling this a fantasy. With tight budgets and vast gaps in military hardware, analysts warn this is a multi-decade project, not a 6-month fix. Military analyst Marina Miron emphasizes that even if the money were available today, the industrial reality is bleak. Production lines for advanced armored vehicles and air defense are already overwhelmed by the requirements of the Russia-Ukraine war. You cannot buy the psychological deterrent of 5,000 combat-hardened American boots on the ground with a budget increase that hasn't even been spent yet. The forward presence is an irreplaceable asset that provided a sense of security money cannot replicate. The shield is not just thinning, it is being removed before the replacement has even been designed. The American security umbrella is folding, and Europe is standing in the rain. The strategic fallout of this decision is already changing the map of Europe. Senators Wicker and Rogers have been vocal, stating that this sends the wrong signal to Vladimir Putin. It broadcasts that the American commitment to Europe is now transactional and volatile rather than principled. This is the ultimate gift to the Kremlin. We are already seeing a domino effect. President Trump has signaled that Italy and Spain are next, calling Italy not of any help, and describing Spain's cooperation as horrible regarding the Iran campaign. This rhetoric creates a sense of permanent instability. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is already sounding the alarm from the eastern flank. If the US presence in Germany, the strategic rear, crumbles, the front line in Poland and the Baltics becomes logistically isolated. This forces the enemy to adapt in ways that disadvantage the West. Russia no longer has to calculate for a US Tomahawk battalion in Germany. This allows Moscow to shift its own air defense and missile assets closer to the Polish border, knowing the deep strike threat has been eliminated. The battlefield has shifted before a single shot was fired. The Suwalki Gap, once a concern, now looks like a chasm. Every mile the US retreats is a mile the Russian military can focus elsewhere. The very geometry of European defense has been altered, perhaps forever. Donald Tusk calls this the greatest threat to the transatlantic community. Not an external invasion, but an internal disintegration. This is the collapse of the post-war order. At the 2025 NATO summit, allies pledged to spend 5% of their GDP on defense by 2035, but that is a decade away. This withdrawal accelerates a Europe-only defense model that the continent is fundamentally unready to lead. Consider the Armenian connection. European leaders are now meeting in Yerevan to discuss the future of their friendship with America. This shift toward the edges of the Russian sphere of influence shows a desperate scramble to find new security partners as the US recedes. But it isn't just Russia watching. China and Iran are observing this closely. They see that a minor diplomatic disagreement over Middle East policy can lead to the dismantling of a security architecture that stood for 80 years. They see an alliance that is no longer a monolith, but a collection of bickering states. If the US is willing to abandon Germany over a public spat, what does that mean for Taiwan? What does it mean for the Persian Gulf? The global significance is clear. The era of the American monopoly on security is gone. The bottom line is that we are witnessing the end of an era. This isn't just about 5,000 soldiers moving across a border. It is about the end of the American monopoly on European security and the dawn of a fragmented, more dangerous age. The withdrawal begins today, but the consequences, from the Suwalki Gap to the boardroom in the Kremlin, will be felt for generations. The shield that protected the West has a permanent crack. The question now is whether Europe can find the will to defend itself, or if this is the first step toward a broader catastrophe. What do you think? Is this the long overdue wake-up call for European nations to fund their own defense, or is it a reckless invitation for Russian aggression? The world is watching and the clock is ticking. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the geopolitical shifts that are reshaping our world. The map is changing. Don't get left behind. The era of certainty is over.